Hey everybody, I'm Erik, or people call me Toro, or my producer name is Workout Plan. So you can call me whatever you like. So today I want to introduce a little series of mine called Tech House Heavy Hitters, where I go into depth about 3 producers in the subgenre that I think are doing big things or good things in the musical space. Where I talk a little about their backgrounds, what I know about them, and I can also suggest some songs to jumpstart you into their catalog. So yeah, let's dive into this. So our first producer that I'm going to present to you is going to be Option4. Option4 hails from Denver, Colorado. So, the Mile High City. And he's put in a ton of work to get to where he is today. So not only does he, produce his own music and release his own music, but he owns his own record label that he puts out music on. Hot Boy Records. And he's gone really far out of his way on Hot Boy Records to help up-and-coming artists and to support them. So he supported a lot of Detroit artists that I know of, and he always comes back here because we always put support towards him at his events. So last summer, I believe, he went on a tour. It was called the Hot Boy Nation Tour, I believe. Yeah. Thanks, Erik. So on the Hot Boy Nation Tour, he went and had this little box. It's probably like this big or whatever. And had a little hole in the top where producers could come who went to his shows and drop a little USB drive in there with a song on it. I don't know, could have been more than one. But if you went to the show and you did that, he played all around the country. And what happened was a really awesome compilation came out of that. As he signed, I don't remember how many tracks, but the Hot Boy Nation Volume 1. And it was the second compilation that Hot Boy Records put out, and it was fantastic. So outside of that, he has releases on his label from the likes of people like Kyle Watson, who's next on this list, Walker and Royce, Vanessa, if that's how you say it. I assume that's how you say it. Bot, Steve Darko, Justin J, Waze and Odyssey, and a bunch of others. There's too many names to even put on this list right now. Now, I'm not Nardwuar, so I'm not going to go all these details. But I'll just tell you this. His real name is Brennan. He's from the Mile High City. And he is a large part of the 100 Presents, which is a concert promotion company. And what they do is they bring some of the hottest acts in electronic dance music to Denver. And they started just like I think it was like a Thursday night at Club Vinyl, I think it was. And then they built it up from there. And now he promotes like all these different clubs and so many different artists like each night. It's crazy. And he's just an all-around good dude on top of that. On top of doing all that. And everybody loves him. Now I just wanted to share those little tiny basics there with you to get an idea of Option4, of what he does, where he's from, all that. So I didn't want to get too deep into his privacy. But let's talk about what's really important. And that's the music. So with that being said, his most recent release on his own label is titled Make 'Em Say. And it was released on April 3rd of 2020. But some notable tracks that I'm a big fan of would be some older ones like Lifeline, which fantastic. Back to Business, and To Be Your Baby featuring Kid Astronaut. Those are just a sampling of different styles and stuff within tech house and house in general. Within house. that he really does well. So Lifeline has always stood out to me. He uses his voice. He uses his voice on a lot of his songs, but like, and he does it on Back to Business too. But on Lifeline, he has this really catchy, cadence, and he kind of like paints a picture and gives this feeling that, I don't know, you need to go listen to it. I play Lifeline a lot when I play out, and I won't stop. Well, there's one down. Option4 from Denver, Colorado. Thank you for supporting up-and-coming artists and releasing and creating quality music. You're an inspiration, sir.
I think it was Tupac. I think it was techno. I think it was hip-hop. I think it was disco. I think it was Kanye. I think it was Camp Lo. I think it was Wu-Tang. I think it was Death Row. I think it was Tupac. I think it was techno.
So let's move on to number 2, the infamous Kyle Watson. Kyle Watson hails from Johannesburg, South Africa, and is one huge name that has come from there over the last decade or so. He for sure delivers something fresh and creative to the tech house sound that I've found has really inspired me to continue trying to make better music. The guy is released on labels like This Ain't Bristol, Spinning Records, Dirty Bird, Big Beat, Armada Music, and even more. He's done these Kyle Watson tour diaries videos on YouTube. They're kind of cool. You get to see a little bit more of his life and stuff like that. And he's even gone further to put out these production videos to showcase some of his work and his songs and to see what he's doing. So you should check those out on his YouTube channel. Kyle was in music his entire life. He took piano for 8 years growing up, and eventually he found DJing and production, but it did take time. So he first messed around with this program called Dance EJ. Never heard of it, but he used it for 3 or 4 years, and then he eventually moved on. So he wanted more, so he went into Reason. And Reason is a lot more technical than Dance EJ. Even though I've never seen it, I can almost guarantee it. So from there, he said he moved on to some professional recording software. I think that's what the interview had said. And what I've learned is that he uses Cubase, which is very interesting because not a lot of people in the house world use Cubase from my experience. I've used Cubase before, and it's nice. I like it, but it's just, once you've used something for so long, for over 10 years, it's kind of like, this is where I'm at. At least for this moment. But yeah, that's just my opinion on that. But Cubase is dope. For you up-and-coming producers out there, he has a Patreon. And he puts all these videos up, and you pay per month, whatever, on Patreon, and you get to be a part of his community in there, and pick up all these really cool tips and everything from him. So it's something I think people should look into. So going all the way back, he signed his first track in March of 2007, and then it's just been consistent releases, putting out remixes. Other artists, connecting and them getting to remix their songs and putting them out on different labels and just consistently putting out music. And here we are today in 2020, and the guy has toured the world. He makes some of my favorite house music songs. So I think Kyle Watson is a big part of electronic dance music. So yeah, that's a little bit about Kyle Watson. But let's move on to what's really important. The music. So his latest release is an EP titled Major Games, which is released on Diplo's imprint, Higher Ground. It's extremely solid, and I love all the tracks on it. And to clarify, its genre is bass house. So some of my favorite tracks going back of his would be Vice Versa, Sides, Road Trips, because duh, it's so good. And his remix of Mancodix's Restless. Those are ones that stand out in my opinion. So if you haven't heard of any of those, or if you've never heard of Kyle Watson, please go and check the man out. He is fantastic. So now that's 2 down. Let's move on to the next tech house heavy hitter. So last, but surely not least, we have the one and only Sage Armstrong. Now this guy's something else. When you see the hair and how tall he is, you know as soon as he gets behind the decks, something really sick is going to happen. So he's a young guy. He originates from Florida, Orlando, I believe. And he just always hit the ground running with his music and just going for it. He's got heavy influence of hip-hop. So he loves artists like Kendrick Lamar, Wintertime, Travis Scott, and Lil Uzi Vert. And that's just to name a few. So he ended up moving to the West Coast, California, to launch off his career, like a lot of people do. He says it's a lot easier to focus on music and work because, all his friends and his family are out in Florida. But that's from an interview in 2017. So my assumption is that he's probably found ways to distract himself by now. So his first release was on Dirty Bird. It was called What's Your Temperature? What's Your Temperature? And, it really made a lot of waves. That track was hot then and it's hot now. So he said in an interview that he wanted to work with Dirty Bird after he attended an event in 2014. And it was in Miami. And he said it was just a sick mix of, sick house music with, hip-hop beats, old school hip-hop beats. Because they had just Blaze performing. Then they mixed in some barbecue and he was just kind of reined in. And he was like, this is where I need to be. I'm paraphrasing, but... that's kind of how I'd view it if I saw it. I'm sure it wasn't that easy, but I'm just glad to see his releases coming out so consistently. So I remember seeing him, I think it was last November, at the Grasshopper Underground. And it was just mesmerizing. Like, he's walking through the crowd and he's so tall, and I'm like, oh, that's Sage Armstrong. And then he gets behind the decks and I'm just like, oh man, I just can't wait. I've been dancing with the opening acts and it was a damn good time. And during that, he had brought up the fact that he was going to release some hip-hop music. And at the end of the night, after everything closed, he dropped a couple tracks. And, did some of it live, too. And it was so good. So good. And I'm pretty hyped for that. To hear more of that. And see more of that. So, I'm glad he's moving, not just staying in house music. I love house music, I live for house music. But I love hip-hop music, too. So, when people mix those worlds together, I love it so much. And he does it really well. And just with the ambiance of his sounds and everything, he really kills it. But yeah, that was a great time. And I feel like it really showed a lot of his character and his personality. And, a testament to his music creation. So another really cool thing about him, and you would know this if you follow him on Instagram, but he makes clothes. He's just an all-around creative person. And he has these really sick hoodies with it says Chanel across them, and they're like, he uses spray paint, it looks like. I could be wrong. But it's really sick, nonetheless. And he also makes some, patchwork shorts and some other stuff. So, you should go on his Instagram and find this stuff if you're interested in buying any of it, because it's really dope, and I just think people would like it. I'm definitely buying a hoodie soon. So now you got, a little bit of information about the legend in the making. So let's go to what's really important. You guessed it, the music. So his latest release came out on Dumb Fat Records, which is his imprint. And it was a compilation called Dumb Fat Joints Volume 1. So he had a track on there that was titled Party People with the producer Bot. And once again, fantastic. So prior to that, he released an LP that was on Dumb Fat Records also called Unify, which he definitely delves into some of that hip-hop influence. Not even some of that, a lot of that hip-hop influence on Unify. And as a whole, like going all the way down, such a great listen. So some of his older tracks that I'm really a big fan of, I would say like Stopping Traffic with Bot, 100 Miles an Hour with Astronomar, Drippin' the Sauce. That's a really dope track. He also did this remix of Travis Scott's Goosebumps. But that one I can't seem to find anywhere. It used to be on SoundCloud. And it's not anymore. But that, I don't know. It's different. And that's why I always fell in love with his music. It's just so... It's the sounds that he uses and the soundscapes that he builds. They're just so... I can't even find a word for it, but I just vibe with it really well. So yeah, that concludes this episode of Tech House Heavy Hitters. So I wouldn't even call it an episode, but yeah. So you got some information about Option4, then you got some information about Kyle Watson, and then Mr. Sage Armstrong was your third. So tell me what you think about those guys. Put it down in the comments. I would love to hear what you thought about the video as a whole. But, those guys in general, I'd love to know your opinions on them. And also include some people that you think I should cover in Tech House Heavy Hitters. Tell me about artists that you love so that I can do some research and find new artists that I might love, and we just help each other as a community. I plan to do more of these to showcase some more artists, like I just said, so be on the lookout for that. If you subscribe, like the video, you ding the bell, you do all those actions that every YouTuber tells you to do. If you do all that, you will find out when I launch my next video. So that's a reward, isn't it? I'm open to doing some live mixes, or I do lives on here. No one's around, but if you want to hear it, you want to see it, I like to play some music for you guys. So if you comment, if you like and subscribe and do all that stuff, then you could be in the know and know when I do that next. But yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. If you do all those things, I will love you forever. I'm Erik, workout plan, and I hope you guys have a great one. Be kind to each other out there.